discussed these things, right? So, what are concurrent activities? How to represent the nested states. So, after representing the nested states, how we are going to resolve a particular system when it is a independent of states. So, the next is this I had explained, right? Programmable thermostat, where we can write a different state diagram for a furnace relay, air condition, run indicator, and a fan relay. So these are the things that that I had discussed in a previous class. So next, in this we have a user interface has a one particular sub diagram. So for this, how we can represent a system? So for user interface, we have a initial state. So operate is a nested state that we are trying to utilize for a user interface. We have in a this operate state, what we are having a state called as a display time. So what this display time will do, it has an activity to display or showing the time. So after showing the time, after 2 seconds, that is, we are using a time event. So after 2 seconds, what happens, it is going to display the temperature. So once the temperature is displayed for 2 seconds, again it will return back to the show time. So here we have two different concurrent activities. So when the time is displaying, correspondingly what it has to show, it has to show the targeted temperature. So you can see here the arrow. So the arrow is a repeated process here. So how we can do that? There is a condition for this arrow. So set the target temperature or reset the target temperature. So we are setting the temperature to perform a particular event. So next, we have a condition, that is temperature, increment the temperature or decrement the temperature. That means whatever the temperature that we have set, either you can increase the target temperature or you can decrease the target temperature. So next thing, what we have correspondingly, we have a run operation. So in a run operation, it is a particular state where it moves to the targeted temperature. So after 1 second, so what happens, it is going to set the temperature. So once the temperature is set, again the system will go to the hold state. So from the hold state, again it can move to the run state. So for this, we have a one more state diagram for setting the temperature. So after 90 seconds, without giving any input, it will move to the whole temperature. So how it will be done? Here we have a one more state diagram. So we have a set clock, set day, and set program. So set clock, set day, and set program, all these three are a sub diagrams of a setup. So here what happens, we have a concurrent diagrams. So for setup and temperature and a night light switch. So here all the three processes are going to execute simultaneously. So when you say a set clock, what happens, it is going to set the clock. When you say a set day, so what happens, it is going to set a particular date. And set program, we can identify what are the different programs that has been set up for a system. Next, to set up a temperature. So either the temperature can be in a Fahrenheit or Celsius. So the temperature can be converted from Celsius to Fahrenheit or from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So it is a two-way directional that can be changed. Then what we have a night light switch. So for night light switch, what we have a light off and light on, two different operations. So if the light is off mode, when you touch the button, it has to move to the on state and the light will burn. Next, once the light is in on state, again when you press the button up, so what happens, it will move from on state to the off state. So for setting the clock, this is a sub diagram. So the clock can be set in a minute, hour, and a second. So what we have from the initial state, we are setting the minutes. So it will show the minutes. So we have a repeated settings that can be taken care. So this loop indicates what we can either increment the minutes, or we can forward the time, we can backward the time, or decrement the minute. So once the minute is set, what happens, we need to set the hours. So it what is the condition, it is a set clock is a condition here. So here setting hours will indicate that how to display the hours. So either you can increment the hour, or you can decrement the hour. So once the hour is being set, again you can go back and you can change the minutes, either increment or decrement the minute. For setting the day, what we can do, we can set the particular day. So you can increment the day, and the day will be shown, either Monday, Tuesday, or whatever the day is there. So that day can be shown. Next is a set program, is a sub state diagram from a previous diagram that we can take. So here what happens when you say a set program, so from the initial state, what happens, the program will be displayed. So either you can add the program time, or you can subtract the program time. That means either 15 minutes you can increment, or you can decrement the program time, and you can view the program, and what is the next program, what is the upcoming program, that can be viewed in advance. So that is what the set program is going to do. So in a set program, again what we have, we can set the temperature. So when we are trying to set the temperature, it has to display the temperature either in a Fahrenheit or a Celsius. So what happens, we are trying to increment the temperature, or we can decrement the temperature, and we can view the temperature. So what is the next temperature, in advance we can set, or we can display the next temperature details. And the next thing is, what we have a set program. So we can display the program per, either we can view the program in advance, or we can uh, display the current program period. So this is how the set program can be written for a state diagram has a substate diagram. So next thing is, we have seen a class model, we have seen a state model. So how can we relate this class model with the state model? So the first thing is, whatever in a state model, it will allow the sequences to change the objects from a class model. So whatever the objects that are instances are available in a class model, so those can be changed accordingly to the state model. So when we are trying to represent a state diagram, so here we are trying to observe the behavior of an object when it reaches a particular state. So it can be a different types of values, or we can take a equivalence class set of classes where the object takes a different values at a different time. Next is, when we are using a aggregation of the object, so each one part has its own independent state. So when you observe the aggregation, that is when you are trying to describe a different parts, so each part has its own role, and it is going to carry its own task. So when it is going to perform a task, so what happens, the entire object behavior is going to change. So that can also be represented in a state diagram has a aggregation of a parts, as we have represented in a class model. Next thing is, when we are using the second source of aggregation within a particular object, so we can link a particular object's parts, and all these objects can be combined together, and we can represent a different composite state. So when we are trying to represent a different composite state, so what happens, it is going to execute its particular task, and we are identifying so how the object is going to be represented with the different values. And the next thing is, the third source is concurrent behavior of an object. So when we are using a concurrent see activity. So at the simultaneously how the objects are going to behave, so whether those objects are interchangeable, so whether the attribute value is going to change, so how the attribute are going to perform its activity based on a certain condition. So the next thing is we have a aggregation of all the objects. So when we are trying to assemble all the objects, so we need to combine it as a parts. So when we are trying to combine that has a different parts, we need to identify how the objects can be represented with the concurrent states. So the next thing is we have identified how the class will be inherited. So when a class has been inherited, how we are trying to represent a subclasses. Similarly, in a state model, what we had a signal generalization. Through the signal generalization, we had represented a hierarchy of signals and how the state can be specified. So this is how we can represent a state diagram with respect to different signal classes, and parallelly the operations can be carried out. So any doubts in a chapter 6? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, just a minute. I'm going to download one more presentation. Okay, so the next chapter is a chapter 7. The chapter 7 we are using for a interaction modeling. So how many types of models are there in interaction modeling? Anyone? Which are the models that are available in interaction modeling? Aishwarya?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me which are the 3 models that are available in interaction modeling? So we have 3 models, right? One is a use case model, sequence model, and a activity model. So we are using the interaction model to represent a particular system. So how the objects are going to interact with each other. So what is this interaction modeling? So out of 3 models, so we have come across a class model, state model, and the last model that we are having is a interaction model. So this so these models we call it as a tripod, and this interaction model is a last model, or we call it as a third leg of a modeling tripod. So here what we are trying to represent with the interaction model, so we have seen in a class model how we can describe the object within a system, and how to represent a relationship between a classes, and how the state model describes the life cycle of an object, and in an interaction model, we are identifying how the objects are going to interact with each other. So depending upon a behavior of an object, so what happens, depending upon a time, so the objects can communicate with each other individually. So to represent this interaction model, we can have a different levels of abstraction. That means we have a high level abstraction. At a high level abstraction, we are trying to use a use case diagram. So what is this use case diagram? This use case diagram, we are call it as a high level modeling, because we are representing the entire system and we are identifying how the actors are going to interact with the system. So each use case represents a functionality, and whatever the functionality that we have represented for a particular system, so who are the different types of user, so how the users are going to interact with this use cases. So what are the different requirements are there for writing a high level abstraction modeling, that we are trying to deal with the use case model. So when we come back to the sequence diagram, so this sequence diagram will provide us still more details about the object. So what it will show, it will show the object at what time the interaction is going to happen between a object. So when the communication was happened, whether the communication is happened with respect to a synchronous or asynchronous signal, so how we are going to represent a diagram. So that is how we are trying to identify the sequence model. So at the last, what we have a activity diagram. So what this activity diagram will say, so it will give the further more details that how the control can be transferred to the next level for a higher computation, and how the data can flow from one action to the another action with respect to the control flow, that will be taken care by the activity diagram. So let us begin with the first model, that is under a interaction model. The first model is a use case model. So in a use case model, first we need to know who is an actor. So who are these actors? An actor is a external user of a system. Say for example, if I am using a particular system, say the application is a online banking. So online banking is a system and I am an actor, I am a end user. I want to utilize the functionalities, or I want to access a system, banking system. So how do I access? So there are different functionalities within a banking system. So one is a login credential, so one is a checking the statement, one is a fund transfer, and download the statement. Assume these are the functionalities that are available with respect to the banking system, and I am a user. So what I can do, I can access a my credential. After moving to my credential, I can take a mini statement, I can transfer a fund. So these are the activities that can be performed as a user. That means external user can be called as an actor. So each and every actor represents those objects, and he can access that particular use cases of a system. Say for example, a customer can be an actor, repair technician, vendor, system. All these things will be are the examples of a actor. So if you take a travel agency system, so the traveler or a passenger can be a uh, actor, and one more is a airline can also be an actor. So if you are considering an example of a computer database system, so the actors might be a user and a administrator. So how we are going to represent an actor? So actor can be a person, it can also be specified with the devices, it can be any other system which can interact with the system directly. So these are called as an actor, or we can say an examples of an actor. So when we say with respect to an use case. So actors define a system. So how these actors will define a system? That means when we are trying to develop a particular system, the system has a boundary. That means it has its own scope. So within that boundary, we need to act upon. So the actor will be communicated directly to the system. So an indirectly connected object is not an actor. So if he is not responding to any other activities with respect to the system, then we cannot call that as an actor. Say for example, if we are taking as a repair technician, so he is going to perform a action. So what type of action he is going to perform? He is going to
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me, Rashmi.
Ma'am, screen share agila.
Share ಆಗಿಲ್ವಾ?
No, ma'am.
Now
Yes, ma'am.
is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we can represent a system with respect to a repair technician. So next thing is we need to know what is a use case. So I said when we say a use case, it is nothing but a functionality of a system. So how we are representing a use case? So these use cases are quantized into a sub functionalities, and those functionalities can be taken care with respect to a particular actors, so that we call it as a use case. Say for example, here we have an example, buying of a beverages. So a customer is an actor and vending machine is a system. So within that vending machine we have a different use cases or different functionalities. So all these functionalities can be represented with the use cases. So what the customer will do, the customer will insert a money into the machine. So once the money is being inserted into the machine, the customer can select the beverage and he can receive the beverage depending upon the selection. And similarly, what we have a repair technician. So why we have this repair technician? Because he need to perform a repair, or he need to have a annual maintenance. So for that we have a actor called as a repair technician. So when we are representing a use cases, so each and every use case has its own functionality. So here what happens, whenever a use case is there, a buy beverage, so here the customer is also involved with a particular use case. That means the customer is directly interacting with the particular use case, and since the actor involvement is there, so here what we are identifying so how the functionality can be represented, or how the system is going to behave. So one more example that we can have is a telephone system. So when in a telephone system, make a call, receive call, caller, all these things can be a use cases. So the caller and the receiver are the actors. So here what happens, whatever in a telephone system, we can have a make a call, send a message, then receive message. So these can be the use cases. So who can be the actor? So the caller can be an actor and the receiver can be an actor. So what the caller will do, the caller will make a call and the receiver will receive the call. So in that way we can connect the use cases. So here is an example of a use case summary for a vending machine. So what we have a buy a beverage. So what this buy a beverage use case will do? So it once the user selects a beverage, the machine will deliver the beverage for a customer. So the customer will collect and he is going to pay for it. Next thing is perform scheduled maintenance. So we have a actor called as a repair technician. So what the repair technician will do, he is going to provide a service whenever the service is needed, or when the system is not in a working condition. So make repair is a one particular use case where again the repair technician will perform the unexpected services. So immediately the system can go for a repair condition. So in that case, immediate repair should happen. In that case, what we are using a make repair has a one particular use case. Next is a load item. So load item is nothing but a system where the stock will be cleared, and here what happens, whenever the stock is cleared, the clerk has a one condition, or he is responsible to add the stock of beverages into the vending machine. So these are the four different use cases of a vending machine. So till now we have seen only the use case. So when we say a system, there can be a error conditions, right? So what are the error conditions? What do you mean by a error in a system? What do you mean by error in a system? Anyone? So error is a condition where it can be a part of a use case. So here what happens? So when a customer selects a particular beverage, so the vending machine will display a warning message, that is whatever the supply is there, the supply is being ended. So that can be a error condition. So the customer has already paid for a beverage, but the beverage is not been collected by the customer. So in that particular condition, so what happens, whatever the transaction that has been carried by the customer to the vending machine, the transaction has to be cancelled. So that is one example for a error condition. And one more is the customer will push the coin and to the vending machine, but after the selection has been accepted, the machine returns the coin. So here what happens, the customer is not able to collect the beverage, so but the machine is trying to return the coin. So this is one of the condition. So either the beverage may be available, but whatever the coin that is being pushed by the customer, it is the time, since there is a timeout, so what happens, the machine is going to return the coin. So there are different types of error that has to be thought, and that has to be written in a model itself. That means from the model itself we can represent where the error can occur. So here is a summary of a use case description. So in a summary of a use case description, the first thing is we need to write a use case. So what is the use case? Buy a beverage is a use case name. So what is the summary of this use case? The summary of the use case is the machine, we have a vending machine. So the vending machine will deliver a beverage after a customer selects and once he pay for it. Who are the actors? The customer is an actor. So here what we are using a precondition. So what is the precondition here? The machine will be in a waiting state, so until the money is being inserted. The condition is precondition is the customer has to insert a money. So without inserting a money to the machine, so the machine will be in a waiting state, he cannot collect the beverage. So how can you provide a description? So the machine will be in a waiting state. So once the machine displays the message enter the coin, so the customer has to enter the coin into the machine. So the machine will identify how much amount the customer has paid. So and he, after accepting the money, so what happens, the machine will display the light and it will display the list of buttons or list of items. The customer can select the item. So once the item is being collected, so what happens, the machine will dispense the corresponding item. So if he has paid a extra amount for a beverage, so the machine should calculate the amount and it should make a change and it should return the change. So that is a description. So what are the exceptions that can arise in a buying a beverage? So one thing is a cancellation. So how the transaction can be cancelled? So if the customer presses the cancel button before the item has been selected, the customer's money has to be returned back. So the customer will insert a coin into the machine, but whatever the transaction has to happen, so before the transaction occur, what the customer will do, he will select the cancel button. So once the cancel button he has pressed, so what happens, the money has to be returned back to the customer and the machine has to go to the reset state or in a waiting state. Next thing is out of stock is a one more exception. So in a out of stock, what happens, the customer will press a button. So when the if the stock is not available, so what happens, the machine has to display that there is no stock, so that the machine will when there is no stock, the machine should not accept the coin itself. And the next thing is insufficient money. So the customer presses a button and he will pay for he will insert the money. So whatever the amount that he has inserted, so what he may pay less for a item. So in that case, the machine has to identify how much amount he has paid. So it should calculate the difference amount and it has to display what is the additional amount that a customer has to pay. And next thing is no change. If the customer has paid more amount and the machine has to calculate the change and it has to return a change, but if cannot make a change, it should display a message that there will be, the machine cannot make a change. So these are the four different exceptions that has to be included in a diagram. So what is a post condition? So once the machine will be in a waiting state for a money to be inserted. That means again the once the beverage is being collected, again the machine will be resetted and again it will be in a waiting condition for the next customer to insert a money. So this is how we can describe the use case diagram. So the next is how to represent a use case. So we have a system involves both the use case and a set of actors. So these use cases are represented as a functionality. So the use case shows the complete functionality of the entire system and how the system can perform and what type of object can be involved within a system. So here whatever the actors that we have that we have represented, so the actor can also be called as a stickman. So the stickman is an icon which denotes a actor, and the from the actor we need to connect the use case. So how can we connect to the use case? By using a solid line. So here is an example of a use case. So the UML notation for summarizing the use case. So the oval shape represent a use case. So buy beverage. So whenever we are trying to represent a use case, we need to represent that with a rectangle box. So within that rectangle box, we need to write the name of name of a system. So below the name of a system, we need to represent the functionalities of the system. So buy beverage, perform scheduled maintenance, make repair, and load items. So these are the different use cases. So who are the actors? So a customer, repair technician, and a stock clerk. So these are the three actors. So what the customer will do? The customer will just buy a beverage. So what the repair technician will do? So he has to perform a scheduled maintenance. So what is this scheduled maintenance? It can be taken as a annual maintenance of a particular system. Okay, make repair when it will come. So though the annual maintenance has been conducted, so sometimes the machine may not be in a working condition. In that case, the machine seeks a repair. So in that condition, the repair technician will come and he is going to repair the machine. So next is a load item, is a one use case. So what is this load item? So this is a stock, so that will be loaded by the stock clerk. So clerk is responsible to check the item. So this is how we are trying to represent a use case. Any doubt till here? Anyone?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
So next we have a guidelines for a use case. So in a use case, you can have a question like this. So write the guidelines for a use case model. So those kind of questions you may get. Okay. So what are the guidelines? First, we need to determine the system boundary. That means we need to identify what is the system boundary. So what are the functionalities that has to be included within a particular system. So you cannot declare a system as a broad thing. So you need to narrow down the system. So that can be taken care by applying the boundary to the system. So it is impossible to identify the use cases or the actors if the system boundary is unclear. That means what you need to define what the actual system has to do. Say for example, if you are taking a online banking, so if you for with respect to the customer, so what actually the customer needs? Only the fund transfer, taking a mini statement, what are the transaction that has occurred. So you need to define a scope. So if the scope is unclear, then you cannot map the function use cases with respect to the actors. That is the reason we need to determine the system boundary. So next thing is ensure that actors are focused. So what is this actors are focused? We need to identify who are the actors of the system. So what is the how the actors what is the purpose of this actor when we are going to consider. So what work he is going to carry out with respect to the system. So when we are representing a real world object, so those real world object will carry out a multiple purpose, and we need to separate the actors. So as you have seen with respect to the buying a beverage, so we have three different actors. That is, one is a repair person, one is a customer, and one is a clerk. So we have identified what are their tasks. So the customer is going to buy only the beverage. That is, he is a focused customer. So what task that is being assigned, only he has to do that particular work. So that is what we call it as a coherent purpose. So here with respect to an example, the owner of a PC may install a software. He can set up a database and send the mail. So owner is an actor. So the system is nothing but a computer. So what are the functionalities that the owner can do? So he can set up his own database inside a system. He can send a mail. He can check the inbox. He can install a different software. So these are the activities that the actor has a owner he can do with respect to a particular personal computer. Okay, so this actor, when we say with respect to the computer system, so these actors can be broken into three different characteristics. So one actor can be a system administrator, one can be a user, and one can one can be a database. So that is how we can represent a system. So next thing is, each use case must provide a value to the user. So whoever the user, whoever the user are there, so each and every user has their own value who is going to communicate with respect to that particular use case. Say for example, we had taken an example of a IA marks management. So in that case, the student is going to write the internal, the faculty is going to value the blue book, then display the marks. So here what we need to do, we need to represent, so how the use case can be connected to a particular actor. So the system should be narrowed down and it should not be broad. So that is what we need to identify with respect to the use cases. So one more example is a telephone example. So if the telephone number is not in a use, so how you can maintain the telephone system? So either the complete transaction can be a value by itself, or here what happens, the user can make a call, he can disconnect the call. So these are the use cases that can be taken with respect to the actors. So next thing is, relate the use case and actors. So we have a list of list of use cases, we have a different actor. So each and every, you cannot, ನಿಮಿಷ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ. So here what happens, each and every use case has to be related with each and every actor has to be related with one or the other use cases. So you have defined an actor, but if you are not mapping in to any one of the use case, it is not possible. So when you have defined an actor, the actor has its own responsibility and the participation has to be taken care. And the last one is, remember that use cases are informal. So there is no formal way of declaring a use cases. That is, we are identifying the use cases with respect to the user center point. That is what is a system, so what are the functionalities of the system. So depending upon a functionality of the system, we are trying to represent the system. So this is how we are trying to represent the use case. And the next thing is, use case can be a structured. So whatever the use cases are there, we need to follow in a particular structure. So it should have a small piece of fragments. So each and every functionality has their own relationship with the other. So these are the guidelines of a use cases. So any doubt? So the remaining I am going to take in a next class, okay? So in a chat box, you can enter your USN, everyone.